Today, we're going to dive into a single, really pivotal encounter from Nietzsche's philosophy. It's this meeting that happens in a forest, and it acts as a final test for a prophet. And it basically sets the stage for an idea that would change the world. This is the story of Zarathustra's first big challenge. Everything, and I mean everything, kicks off with this one powerful line. Now, this isn't just some poetic phrase, It's the real catalyst for the whole story. Zarathustra feels this overwhelming need, almost like a biological urge, to share everything he's learned. His wisdom isn't something to be hoarded. It's meant to be given away. Okay, so let's set the scene here. Imagine this. After 10 full years of total solitude up on a mountain, Zarathustra hits a breaking point. He decides he absolutely has to go back down. Not because he's lonely, but because of the sheer weight of all the insights he's gathered. It's time to return to the world of men. And this is so crucial. His return isn't really a choice. It's a necessity. Like a cloud that gets so full it has to rain, or a bee so full of honey it has to unload. He feels he must pour himself out to keep his own wisdom from just going stagnant and becoming useless. It has to be shared to stay alive. So as he's making his way down the mountain, who's the very first person he runs into? An old saint living out in the woods. And this character is incredibly important because he represents a totally different path, a whole other reality that Zarathustra could have picked, but now has to turn his back on. So who is this saint, really? Well, he is an old hermit who has completely given up on humanity, basically because he finds people too messy and imperfect. He just spends all day by himself, singing and praising God. He's literally a walking symbol of an old way of thinking, the kind that tries to find God by rejecting the world. And this whole philosophy actually has a name. It's called spiritual quietism. It's a worldview that's all about passive thinking and pulling away from everything. The goal is to just disengage from the chaos of human life, so you can have this pure, unbroken focus on God. It's a total retreat. At its heart, the saint's whole deal is based on what we can call the ancient bargain. See, his devotion is basically a transaction. You put up with all of the suffering and imperfection of life on earth right now, and in return, you get your perfect reward in the afterlife. Suffer now, paradise later. So this whole encounter becomes a massive fork in the road. It forces this head-on collision between two totally different ways of loving and living. It's Zarathustra's final exam before he walks into town and really begins his mission. And right here, the difference couldn't be clearer. On one side, you have the saint and his passive spiritual quietism, a love for God that's really fueled by how flawed he thinks people are. But on the other side, you've got Zarathustra's active mission, a really challenging love for humanity in spite of all its flaws. The saint is aiming for a reward in heaven. Zarathustra is trying to find meaning right here, right now, on earth. And Zarathustra makes his choice absolutely clear with this one simple statement. By saying, "I love man," he's fundamentally slamming the door on the saint's entire way of life. His focus has completely shifted away from the heavens and the afterlife to the human, the earthly. That other path, it's just not an option for him anymore. But look, he can't just waltz into town and start this mission unprepared. He's guided by two symbolic animals, his companions, and they represent the key qualities he's going to need to survive his journey back into the world of men. This is what you could call his supernatural aid, but don't think of it like some kind of magic spell. It's all about inner strength. The pride of the eagle and the wisdom of the serpent aren't just pets. They are the very traits he has to make a part of himself if he's going to face what's coming. So, why pride? That sounds kind of bad, right? But here's why it's so important. To survive the cynicism and the nihilism of the marketplace, he can't afford the saint's kind of humility. He needs the eagle's pride to stay above it all, to keep his vision clear of the pettiness of the herd and the blinking stupidity of what Nietzsche calls the last man. Simple faith would just get eaten alive. And that serpent's wisdom? It's just as vital. But this is an earthly, practical kind of wisdom. It's the street smarts you need to walk that treacherous path of human life, which Zarathustra famously calls a rope over an abyss. This is all about surviving in this world, not getting into the next one. So he's made his choice, he's armed with these symbolic tools, and with that, Zarathustra leaves the saint behind. The encounter is over, and his transformation is pretty much complete. Now his real purpose can finally begin. As he walks away, Zarathustra realizes something profound. The old saint, tucked away in his complete isolation from the world, is totally, completely out of touch. He has missed the single biggest news story in modern history. And that's the news. For Zarathustra, saying God is dead means that the entire foundation for the saint's worldview, that ancient bargain, the objective moral rules, the promise of heaven, it's all crumbled. The old ways just aren't valid anymore. With that realization, his new role just clicks into place. He's no longer a seeker of God like the saint. He's something totally new, a messenger, a herald for whatever has to come next in a world without that divine safety net. He is the Overman's herald. So who or what is this Overman, this Übermensch? Well, that is Zarathustra's ultimate goal for all of humanity. It's a new kind of human being who doesn't look to the heavens for meaning, but instead creates their own values and passionately says yes to life right here on Earth. So, leaving the quiet, out-of-date devotion of the forest saint far behind him, Zarathustra moves forward. He walks right into the messy, chaotic, and very human town called the Motley Cow. His test is over, and his real, difficult work is just getting started. And this whole story just perfectly sets up the question that's at the heart of his entire journey. And it's a question that goes way beyond this one parable. Once you realize that the old paths and the ancient bargains are gone, the responsibility falls squarely on you. So how do you create new meaning in a world that doesn't just hand it to you?